Hi guys, and welcome back to the Mezadashi workshop, where we'll be continuing work on the project Bedbug. So in the last episode we got some work done on this very distorted, twisty and previously rusty roof, and I still need to do a little bit more filler work on this, but I did get to do some more filler work on the sides. So I've started doing some bodywork on these rear quarter panels. I mean, to start with, they weren't very nice, so we did have to replace a section down here. As well as that, we fabricated a lower section as well out of steel. So what I did is I roughly sanded the area using the DA sander just to make sure the metal was nice and clean, and then I applied some of our rust treatment primer underneath before I put some fiberglass on. And then after the fiberglass was cured, or as it was curing, I actually shaped it with a block and an 80 grit just to get the rough shape kind of right. And then I started applying some layers of filler, and I just kept on reshaping it. But it's not finished yet. I do have some high spots that I need to knock in, and I do have a bit more filler work, but the rough shape is almost correct. And on the other side, pretty much the same thing. I've just done exactly the same as the other side. I've just put the fiberglass on there after I put the treatment on there, roughly shaped it and started applying layers of filler. Yet again, it does need a bit more work. So if you remember in the previous videos, I was having a right nightmare with the temperature in the workshop hitting 47 degrees, and the filler was pretty much going off on the mixing board before I could apply it onto the vehicle panels. But then I had an even bigger problem where the temperature actually went up even more, and we hit a whopping 52 degrees in the workshop. And applying body filler at 50 degrees is really tricky. The panels were warm, and every time I put the filler on, it was going off. So it was actually quite time consuming just to get the ratio right with the hardener and the filler. But I did manage to get a couple of coats of filler on there, so I'm pretty happy with that, and the shaping's going pretty well. But today I want to focus on the rear end of Bedbug. We've done quite a bit of fabrication work just getting this rear engine lid on the back, and we've reshaped the bottoms of the corners, etc. But something that I haven't done yet is in here where the rubber seal sits around the outside. I don't actually have a return edge or a lip just to hold the rubber seal on. I've got a little bit on the bottom from the original valance, that was a donor section, but I really need to do something with this just to hold a rubber seal in. And after I've sorted that dilemma out, I need to put the stay onto this engine lid from this bracket here to somewhere around here. I need a stay to hold it open, otherwise it kind of just flaps around in the breeze. So the customers kindly supplied a new engine lid seal, but not only that, I do have the stay here along with some new rollers to go on a donor section that was cut out of a bus. So to install the rubber seal at the back, there's a couple of options I've come up with. One of them is actually to use the seal holding strip from a bonnet like this one here that has a tiny little recess, and that can actually hold the rubber seal on its lip like this, and that in turn can just be welded to the side here to hold the rubber seal into position. And the other option is to make a channel like this that runs all the way around the engine lid, which is what I'm going to do. And the way I'm going to do it is I just went out and bought a box section of steel, and I've cut some strips out like these here, and I can weld those into position, and these should hold the rubber seal in quite nicely. So with a right angle strip of steel like this, I should be able to just weld it into position just underneath like so, and that will leave me a channel here to put the rubber seal in. And on the sides, pretty much the same idea. I'm just going to weld in a right angle bit of steel and put the seal in there, and then I'll know where to put the little assembly that has the two jockey wheels for the stay on the engine lid. So I was about to get cracking with the back end of Bedbug. More parcels have just turned up, so let's get those unboxed first. Oh, this is great. In the first box, we have another set of gas struts. These can be used on the front cover. So I'm pretty chuffed these are turned up. I can get those installed at some point. So in the next box we've got some wing beading. There's 4 in this packet. I suspect though the rear wings will need a longer bit of beading, so I might have to end up buying another roll of black beading just to do the back wings. And next up we have a wiring harness. This is a complete wiring harness for a Beetle. Bedbug is not quite a Beetle, it's a lot longer than a Beetle, so a lot of these wires will probably need to be extended. And it is just as well that the customer has invested in a new wiring loom. I don't know if you can see this very well, but the wiring that's currently installed into Bedbug is just a mismatch of burnt out wiring that's been cut. A lot of it has actually been melted, so I suspect it's had quite a bit of a history with this wiring loom, and it's no good really. I could spend forever trying to repair this wiring loom, but sometimes it's better just to replace the whole lot. And at the back here, well, the wiring looks absolutely terrible too. I mean, this here is not even original wiring. Somebody has kind of, I don't know what this is. It's a mangled mess of wiring back here. A lot of the insulation is broken. You can see the wiring, the actual core of the wire through the insulation where it's just deteriorated over time. So now's a good time to replace the whole loom. So there we go, there's those little right angle strips welded in to hold the rubber seal, and just at the top here I did have to make some incisions just to bend it round slightly, and then I've just tacked them on the back of this panel. So what I've done is I trial fitted the rubber seal for the engine lid, and I made sure that it opened and closed okay. It seemed to shut down fine, so I was happy with that. So I went ahead and I changed this catch. There's the old one there. I changed this catch here and then it wouldn't shut. So what I had to do is I had to make a tiny little incision here, just thin it out ever so slightly so the engine lid would then close again. So with the new catch fitted and the engine lid closing, you can see that the gap down the side here, it's almost pushing out the engine lid ever so slightly down the sides and at the bottom. And this is not uncommon when replacing new seals, and this includes door seals as well. They do tend to push out the panel ever so slightly, and as they get softer and older, they seem to close a bit better. So what I'd like to do is get the bodywork sorted on the rear end of Bedbug. There is a little bit of rust coming through here and there, so I will have to sort that out. I will be using our special rust treatment primer first, and then I'll be bodyworking over the top. The engine lid itself is not in good shape. I mean, this is absolutely totaled, and I did manage to straighten it out a little bit better than it was. It was badly buckled. I've still got this area here to address, so I think I'll do that now. I'm just going to cut this section out here and replace it with a fresh bit of steel. So what I've just done is cut out the rusted section, and I've just made a panel or a patch and welded it into position. And if you're new to this channel, you may be wondering why I just cut out a rusted section and repaired it very crudely, I must say, instead of replacing the whole engine lid. And it's for good reason. Bedbug is built on a mega budget, and of course it would be better to put a new engine lid, but this project is all about saving what I've got with what I've got given and what I've got. So this is the donor bracket for the engine lid stay. What I'm going to do is roughly weld it in position. I'll tack it in position just to see if it's in the right place when it's closed and I put the new stay on this bracket. So I just tacked the bracket into position here, and I've added the stay and the new bolt, and yeah, it's holding up the engine lid absolutely fine, and when it closes it does clear and it clicks in pretty well. So what I've done at the back is I've sprayed on this stuff here, which is gun black. It's a rust treatment, but not only that, it's a primer. And prior to me actually spraying on the gun black, what I did is I've just gone over the area with a flap wheel and with a DA sander just to get most of the bits of surface rust off, and then I was able to spray it. So what I'd like to do now is start applying some fiberglass on these welded areas that we had previously done on the back of Bedbug. But before I do that, I need to make this surface keyed up. So I'll be using Scotch and some sandpaper just to key it up so the fiberglass sticks to this surface. So what I've done, just using the fiberglass paste, I've just gone over the welded areas. And this will take a little bit of time to cure off before I can sand it, so I've got other stuff to get on with. So the dashboard area on Bedbug, well, it looks terrible. There's crust up here and over in this corner. And then I've got an issue with some of these switches here. So just on the left hand side of the steering wheel, you can see there's a great big hole and the customer's put a great big X on it. He wants me to delete this. I assume that that was used for some kind of aftermarket switch at some point. And another thing I need to look at here, I've got quite a large hole, but the customer wants me to fit a switch with a small bezel. So what I'm going to do is weld this area over and then re-drill it. So that's those bits on the dash sorted pretty quickly. This area here, all I did was templated the hole and welded in a new bit of steel and ground it back. And this one over here, where I had to make the hole smaller, pretty much the same thing, templated a disc, and then I drilled the hole in the middle. And in the past, doing jobs like this, what I have done is welded in a washer. So you could do that as well. And you may be wondering why I haven't taken the steering wheel off. Well, I've kind of lost my 30mm socket. And as you can see with this steering wheel, it's pretty much totaled. It's absolutely deteriorated. It's probably unsafe, but for this project, we do have a new steering wheel. So the fiberglass on the back has now gone off, so it means I can sand it. And the way I'm sanding it is I'm using an 80 grit on the DA, and what I'm not trying to do is I'm not trying to remove the fiberglass. All I'm trying to do is remove the high spots and to keep the fiberglass up. So then what I can do is just use that as a base over the welds, just so I can apply the body filler. So on Bedbug, when I was dealing with crusty areas, I was using this product here. It's called Gun Black. But on areas like this where I've got a bare metal door and it's not so crusty, I'll be using this here, which is called non-chrome. So this is a resin primer and it's really good and designed to go on bare metal surfaces. The name is called non-chrome primer, but that's got nothing to do with that shiny chrome like on bumpers. It's more to do with chromium, which is something that was added to certain primers. It's pretty bad and hazardous. This doesn't contain it, so it's non-chromium, and that makes it eco-friendly. And this is a 2-part or 2-pack or 2K primer, whatever you want to call it, which means you have the paint and you also have its own designated hardener. So you will have to purchase this at the same time. Not only that, it also uses a special thinners as well. And the mix with this one is 2-to-1. So that is 2 parts paint to 1 part hardener. And then you can use the measured amount of thinners. So this is a special acrylic resin primer, which is really great, as I said, to go on bare metal surfaces. But not only that, it does form a layer over the top and it can really help with rust problems. It's not a rust treatment, it is a primer, but it can stop new rust forming. But it doesn't stop there. This stuff, after you sprayed it on, keyed it up, you can also apply your body filler over the top, and then followed by that you can put your primer. So Bedbug's doors are pretty dented, they're not very straight, they will need a lot of body work in. This door only needed the lower section replaced, so that's pretty good. But it does have lots of dents and things like that across the top, which I'm not going to bother doing as yet. I'm going to put my special resin primer on first, and then I'll be doing the filler work over the top. So what I've just done is applied a couple of coats of the resin primer, and then over the top of that I've just added my guide coat. Something that is worth mentioning, back in the day I had no problem with putting body fillers over the top of bare metal panels and then using a standard high build primer afterwards. But on Bedbug it was a bit crusty, well, very crusty, so what I'm trying to do is do my best to stop that rust coming back. So something I've mentioned before, and this is pretty important when you're mixing large amounts of filler like Bedbugs. Bedbug is going to need quite a bit of body filler, and it's the mixing technique. It's not mixed like this here, it's more of a folding technique. You add your hardener and you fold the filler over itself, and then it mixes really well. The color becomes the same all the way through, and then you're ready to apply it. But something that you will have to worry about is as soon as this hardener touches your filler, it's a ticking time bomb, it's going off, and you don't want it to go off on your mixing board, so you need to do this pretty quick. And I do know what you're thinking, and it's the same with the roof. That is way too much filler, and I've purposely done this. I've overloaded the panel with filler. And the reason why, it's time. What I've done is I've overloaded this area with filler, and then when I take it back, it's going to be in pretty much the right shape already before I put the top coat of filler on. If I, for example, was just to do small areas and then keep on taking it back, I'll still end up with all the distortions. I'll end up having to put more and more and more filler on and sanding it back, and it's a waste of time for me. So actually over applying the filler first and then just taking it back a little bit and then applying the final coat of filler over the top actually works out quicker. So another thing I do to save time is I actually start sanding it before it's completely gone off. At the moment, it's still a little bit soft. Doing it this way with a DA sander with quite a coarse grit, it will sacrifice a sanding disc, but you're able to take large amounts of filler off as it's drying, as when it's dry, it's a lot harder to sand. So all I'm trying to do with this thick filler is get the shape correct, and just using the 40 grit on the DA, that was done in absolute seconds. It's just taken the tops off and the unevenness, and then what I can do is a little bit more sanding once it's cured, and then I'm ready for the next coat of filler. So I do understand doing this type of filler work where you're using quite a lot of body fillers is not for everybody, but let's not forget what Bedbug actually is. It would be really uneconomical to start trying to get those panels super straight, and body filler is easy and it's cheap. So I'm going to carry on doing some body work. Oh, if you are interested in Japanese culture, of course I'll leave you a little clip at the end of this episode. So we managed to get more stuff rattled off on Project Bedbug today, which is really good. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers!